When Michael Jordan heard what happened to his mom inside that luxury boutique, he didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He acted. And what he did next inspired millions. It was a quiet afternoon in a busy city. Dolores Jordan had some time to herself while visiting for an event. She decided to stop by a luxury boutique, one of those places with polished glass windows, marble floors, and price tags too small to read. She wasn't dressed flashy, just a simple blouse, pressed slacks, and the same grace she always carried. As she stepped inside, she offered a soft smile to the staff. But instead of being greeted, she was watched, closely, judged. She wandered toward a display, admiring a necklace behind the glass. But the moment her hand lifted to point, a clerk swooped in, not to help, but to redirect. "Ma'am, those are quite expensive," the woman said, her voice flat. "Perhaps you'd be more comfortable elsewhere." Dolores blinked, unsure of what she just heard. But the cold looks around her made one thing clear. She wasn't welcome. Dolores stood there stunned as the clerk stared her down with a polite but patronizing smirk. "These pieces start at several $1,000s," she said, tilting her head ever so slightly. "Most of our clientele, well, they usually call ahead." The message was clear. She didn't look the part. Another associate walked by and chuckled under their breath. A couple nearby glanced her way, then back at their shopping, unfazed. Dolores wasn't causing a scene. She wasn't loud or demanding, but the air had shifted. She was being judged, not as a customer, not even as a person, but as a stereotype. When she asked a simple question about a ring in the case, the clerk didn't even bother to answer. Instead, she leaned over and said in a lowered voice, "If you're not buying, I'll have to ask you to step away from the case." Dolores nodded, lips pressed together. She felt her cheeks burn, not from shame, but from quiet disbelief. She had money, she had dignity, but none of that mattered here. She turned without a word and walked out, the store door chiming faintly behind her. They had no idea who she was, but they were about to find out. Dolores didn't mention the incident at first. That wasn't her style. She wasn't looking for sympathy, and she definitely didn't want to burden her son with it. But word travels fast, especially when you're the mother of Michael Jordan. A family friend who had been with her that day told him everything. Michael was in between meetings when the call came. At first he was silent, just listening. But as the story unfolded, his grip on the phone tightened. Not because she'd been denied service, not even because she'd been judged, but because someone had dared to disrespect the woman who raised him, the woman who taught him to walk tall no matter who tried to put him down. He asked no more questions. He didn't explode. He simply stood up, walked out of the meeting, and started making calls. That cold arrogance from the store, the way they looked down on someone so full of quiet strength, it had lit something in him. He wasn't going to tweet about it. He wasn't going to give them the spotlight. No, Michael Jordan had something far more powerful in mind. A message that didn't need shouting, only action. A move that would echo far beyond the boutique's walls. Within days, the boutique received a notice, an anonymous offer to purchase not just their inventory, but the entire building. It came from a silent investor, one they couldn't trace, until the paperwork landed, and a single signature made jaws drop across the boardroom. Michael Jordan. He didn't just buy the store, he bought the power to change it. Quietly, without media circus, he stepped in and transformed everything. The staff who had disrespected his mother, let go. No press release, no drama, just gone. In their place, he hired a diverse, hand-picked team, trained not only in sales, but in respect, empathy, and service. He changed the store's policy to focus on dignity before dollars. Whether you walked in wearing diamonds or denim, you were treated the same. He never mentioned his mother publicly, never named the store, but industry insiders knew. The story leaked, and people whispered, "That's the store Jordan flipped." He didn't want revenge, he wanted change. A reminder to the world that success isn't measured by suits or shoes. It's measured by how you treat those who walk through your doors. Michael didn't slam them. He elevated the standard. And that was the real slam dunk. The story spread quietly at first, shared among employees, whispered by executives, posted anonymously online, but the whispers grew louder. News outlets picked it up, calling it the Michael Jordan move no one saw coming. And while the headlines praised him, what really caught the world's attention was the message behind it. Other celebrities began sharing their own experiences, times they or their loved ones were judged by appearance alone. Oprah reposted the story. Denzel Washington commented on the dignity of a man who could have humiliated the store, but chose to uplift instead. Even people who'd never followed basketball were inspired, but the most powerful impact? Everyday folks. People who had felt invisible, looked down on, or underestimated saw hope in what Jordan did. That someone with his power didn't forget where he came from, or who stood behind him. Dolores Jordan became more than just a mother. She became a quiet symbol of grace. People approached her not for autographs, but to say, thank you. And Michael? He started funding programs focused on retail diversity training, empathy in business, and mentorship for young professionals. He turned one act of disrespect into a movement of transformation. Because for him, respect wasn't optional, it was the baseline.